What's going on, fish keepers? Today we're doing a deep dive on the Fluval Spec 5-gallon from the very beginning of the unboxing to the most recent update on the scape. So make sure to go and grab a snack and a drink, kick back, watch till the end where I go over my pros and cons and a few tricks of the trade. Let's get it. The Fluval Spec comes in a very nicely designed box. My favorite part has to be the handle. Super easy to carry this little tank around. It comes with a 2-year limited warranty and outlines the exact dimensions of the tank so you can be certain if this tank fits your stand. The tank comes ready with its own built-in 3-stage filtration, so you don't have to worry about getting a separate filter and where to hide it in your scape this time. It's boasting an LED with a light temperature of 7000 K, which is super nice for growing and displaying plants. On one side, the package gives us neat facts about the fish in our hobby and information on where some of the popular ones come from. Consult with your fish dealer for species-specific care, unless your fish dealer is PetSmart. On the back, we see more detailed information about the LED and the 3-stage filtration. The light has 37 LEDs and 821 lumens for only 7.5 watts. Impressive. And the last side showcases some of the styling options and demo pictures. Alright, time to open it up. First impressions is that it's packed very well. Styrofoam and protective covers, so nothing is left to chance. I usually never use tanks with lids, but it's a refreshing change for once to decrease inhabitant mortality from jumping and water evaporation. Here's the instruction manual, power for the light, a little water pump for the filter, comes with the output tube and sticky pads to keep it in place, the sleek looking LED light, and the 3-stage filter, of which I will take the activated carbon out of. I will probably replace it later with additional ceramic media. The quality of the build looks and feels fantastic.
Mercedes.
Fluval. I'm starting off with some contra soil. You can also use Fluval stratum or even organic potting mix. Brush the soil so there's none touching the sides. This will make the scape more aesthetic as we're capping the soil. Get the soil wet now to decrease the amount of random bubbles that pop later. We're capping with a loose gravel. You can use sand or anything else as well. Now we texture with round river rocks. You can find these for cheap at a home hardware center or if your mom has some in her garden. Smaller rocks for more texture. Anubias barteri in the corner, Amazon Sor compacta, Sagittaria subulata, and Cryptocorin wentii green. Fill up the tank with water. You can either add water into the tank and destroy your entire scape like you didn't even do a scape, or you can take advantage of the filtration compartment and pour water in there to completely avoid damaging your scape. Here I add some dried dead hardwood branches to make the scape more interesting. I simply stab them into the substrate and hope they stay from the weight of the rocks. Let there be light and water movement. The next week, the tank started growing some brown algae and diatoms. This is very normal for new tanks. Fish keepers, stay strong and tank on. This stuff goes away with weekly water changes and manual removal. Somehow, a snail always gets into a new scape without me ever putting one in. I have a feeling this ram's horn is gonna lay eggs all over the place. 2 weeks later, brown algae is really starting to take over. I let it go on for this long because I find satisfaction in taking a lot of them out at once. Again, reminder not to worry if this happens to you. This type of new tank algae is very easily dealt with. Manual removal, water changes, and you can even decrease your lighting hours to find that balance. Around day 30, man, this snail is getting huge. We're going to add a tiny heater I got from Amazon into this tank to prepare for the inhabitants to come. I love that it fits snugly in the filter compartment. Day 35. The tank is fully cycled and the first inhabitants are the Amano shrimp. I have 4 in the bag, but 2 of them are going into some other tanks. I love having an algae eater in all my tanks, and Amano shrimp are one of the most dependable and versatile algae eaters. It's a good sign if your newly introduced shrimp wastes no time to start chowing down on diatoms, microorganisms, and algae. The trick is to not feed the shrimp for a few days to get them started on the algae. Monitor their poop strands to see if they're full. 3 days later, and I'm here at April's Aquarium, which is an amazing store. If you're in the area, definitely go check them out. They have a collab with Aquarium Co-op as well. Their tanks are just amazing as you can see, and this is only the showcase area. They have a whole warehouse full of fish and inverts, like these guppies I never heard of before. These cories are super cool as well. And then I found out snow white Amano shrimp exist. I just had to get a couple. Alright, I need these So as you can tell by the name of this video, we are going with ruby tetras as the centerpiece species of this tank. They are an amazing nano fish as they max out at the size you see. So they are true nano fish that fit in small tanks. I'm only putting one snow white amano in this tank. The ruby tetra are, just like any other small tetra species, very shy upon arrival. It's an unfamiliar territory for them and they like to feel safe in their school, swimming low and hugging a corner. But they are super easy to adapt, and they're already flaring up and getting more confident within the first feeding. Now we've caught up to the most recent update. Here's a quick maintenance of the glass on day 130. There's a healthy amount of algae and biofilm growing on the rocks now, which is nice for habitat diversity. The ruby tetras are doing very good. There are no losses of any kind. They are an exceptionally hardy species, and I recommend them over neon tetras for beginners any day. The amano shrimp are also doing amazing. They are probably the hardiest shrimp in the hobby, so no issues there. As for plants, I would say the light has done a marvelous job as I was expecting much more melt action and dying back, especially because it's always a more challenging time for plants to adapt if their roots are wedged between bigger rocks and not planted 100% properly. But the light has kept them alive and thriving. The Cryptocoryne Wentii green likes it so much that they've not only sprouted many new leaves, they've gone and activated some Wentii red genes. The Sag subulata has done surprisingly well. I thought this thing would melt into nothing and maybe grow back, but it barely lost a couple leaves with new growth every week. The compact sword has done what I imagined, biggest melt, but with new leaves on the way. The Anubias barteri is hanging in there. It seems there may be some nutrient deficiency in the water column, so I might start dosing liquid ferts once every blue moon. Now for pros and cons, after living with the Fluvospec 5 gallon, there are definitely a lot of things I like about it. If this tank is in your bedroom and you're a light sleeper, you will be pleasantly surprised as you will not hear this tank at all. I am very sensitive to sound, and this tank would have been a godsend when I only had tanks in my bedroom. Ironically, my loudest filter is the Tetra Whisper. It must be whispering in caps lock. Another great thing I love is the lid. I've mentioned it already, but it's such an anxiety reliever to know your fish and inverts are safe and won't be able to jump out. The filtration system is no joke. It can really move water and is effective and very easy to maintain. The adjustable outflow can adapt to whatever condition you want. More surface disturbance, less water flow, which direction, etc. But my favorite part of the filter is that it's neatly organized, no need to hide a filter intake, and it holds a small heater. Super satisfying. There's a few cons to address, but for me, none of these are deal breakers or even close. They're more like nitpicks. The first thing I noticed is that when doing water change, if a few drops of water decide to slide down the glass and into the tiny space between the black stand and the glass, it could be sitting there for a while. I just absorb it with the tip of a tissue paper. And although the lid does decrease evaporation, this tank still definitely evaporates. It's mandatory to never let the water level go below the intake if you have a small heater like me in the filter compartment, because the water level in there might drop down lower than the heater, and not only might the heater break, the drop in temperature might be harmful to your stocking. This is really a user error though. Just do regular weekly maintenances and you'll be fine. Other than that, if you're using floating food, make sure to sink them, because I've noticed if I keep it floating, a lot of the times the fish won't get to them in time before they're sucked into the intake. Changing the outflow direction will help with this too. All in all, I strongly recommend getting yourself a Fluvospec if you have been thinking about it. I'll link below some of the items we used in this video, and please support on Patreon for more content like this and to join the FFT Fishkeeping Discord server. Don't forget to get your hands wet. No cap, that could be fat, she wanna clap. 81 Fahrenheit, my boys get that whap. Put it on my tap, 3-to-1 ratio, breeders on the map. Tetra, 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 we in a spot, coming in hot, ventral fin dot, acclimate that. Where my shoal at, cure my fin rot from Cariciformes, stupor at your rodon, hold on. There's not another fish that you can wish for, lit fam sus, I finna one, I finna gone 3 days without furt, I'm an addict, like fanatic, I'm a bad